I felt for the bait and switch. I can't believe it. Here I thought this episode was gonna be about All Might. You know, it's called I Am Here. So I'm like, yeah, all right, All Might, what you got going? What you got cooking for us? And then the rest of the episode was all about Dabi and his family and Shoto and all that, which wasn't bad. Trust and believe, it was still a very good episode. But I sat here like, yeah, All Might, what you got? All Might's cooking some stuff up. And then they changed the whole direction of the whole episode. It's fine. It's okay. That just means that we'll learn more about whatever All Might's doing in the future at some point. But regardless, make sure you like the video. Make sure you guys are subscribed because we will definitely discuss whatever this happens, even more so in the future. But full reactions are on Patreon in the link below. And it was pretty good for this episode because just like several other people in the background having their mouth gaping open, I too was doing the same, like, wait a minute, hold up. So definitely check it out and become a member on Patreon when you get the chance. So yes, the rest of the episode was mainly about the relationship of Dabi and the rest of his family. And of course, with Endeavor. Now, Dabi, of course, is about to set off like a nuclear blast with how much power he's just storing up until they can finally be released and shot off. But the rest of the family is coming in and trying to tone like, hey, this is a family affair. Let's deal with it as a family instead of Endeavor trying to deal with it on his own, which is great because we get to see pretty much the rest of his family kind of use their quirks. We had his wife comes in, the ice powers that she supposedly has, she actually uses them. And she actually is able to kind of help cool them off, but then everyone's skin is melting off because of how hot it is that Dabi is literally trying to make things explode. Even the extended family, the brothers and sisters, comes up and they too are using their ice quirk powers. They too are having their skin melt off and they're several feet behind even the mother. So everyone is being affected here, all of them trying to work together to stop Dabi and what he is doing. They're even so much as saying, hey, leave everyone else out of it. Just blow up for us alone. You know, just take us out, not anyone else in the surrounding area. So then that way, you know, other women, children, family, all that. Endeavor himself is trying to take Dabi up into the sky and use some of Dabi's flames to kind of get power, but even he was like, I can't do it. Does not surprise me that Shoto passed out after dealing with Dabi, using the big ice move he had learned. On top of the fact, if you notice, he had been using his fire and ice powers when they were in the plane mode getting there. So we talked about last week about quirks and how it's fundamentally a part of their bodies and they have to use resources from their bodies in order to use these quirks. Imagine Shoto's been using his quirk of fire and ice to get there, and then while he's there, he has to use pretty much the most powerful move he has against this fireball. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Shoto's like, yeah, okay, hey, thanks for helping, family. All right, I'm gonna sleep now. And it just passes out. So yes, that was a momentous occasion. But one thing that I think, I don't know if it got overlooked, but one thing I wanna make note of is Endeavor finally taking note and noticing how truly powerful Dabi is. Because if you actually look at it, and yes, it was funny how they showed the little flower in his head, like he like a thought like manifested or something. If you truly look at it, Endeavor's like, how is he doing all this? Dabi's over there like, notice me, daddy. And he's like, what, huh? And then he finally takes note of him. He finally sees him. His power is manifesting. He sees him using ice powers. Like he said, this is like as if someone is on their about to die, the realization of death, and then their powers reawaken or manifest as something newer. He has been trying to create the perfect, I guess you could say, life form between the fire powers and ice powers. Thus the reason why he's had so many kids and mistreated them. So he had overlooked his firstborn son. Dabi is his firstborn. And the weight of that alone is momentous. For those that are not the firstborn, I want you to understand, being the firstborn in any family member like myself has a weight to it from your parents that you don't even realize that is even there. Dabi has this curse pretty much on him. And then in the final moments, he manifests and actually uses ice powers. So he uses what his father always wanted. He wanted a child that was able to do fire and ice. And then Endeavor's like, oh my God, I've overlooked him this whole time. And he's had these fire powers. You got to remember in the past, Endeavor thought that Dabi was a failure due to the fact that, oh, he has fire powers, but his body has ice resistance. So thus, every time he uses his fire powers, he's pretty much burning himself because his body's not resistant to the fire. If anything, it's weaker to the fire. So, of course, he's like, oh man, he's a failure. But what does Dabi do? He literally comes back and is after his father to show him, hey, I was a reject from you, but look at my flame powers now. They're some of the strongest in the whole family. Yet I was the one that you rejected because, oh, he's gonna amount to nothing. And then in his last moments, he manifests ice powers on top of it. So he literally showcased everything that Endeavor wanted, but then was a thrown away, cast away reject from Endeavor. So it makes Endeavor really open his eyes like, oh my Lord, this is all my fault. What have I done? And that's where Endeavor got the realization that, you know what? I'm gonna take him. It's just gonna be the two of us that dies. I'm gonna take him up and then he explodes and it only is the two of us to take away the sins that I've done. And then the rest of the family shows up. That moment alone was just so powerful and actually had so much more weight to it that I think a lot of people are giving it credit. This family, now there's a resolution. The family itself has resolved this to where even Dabi's just sitting there crying. And of course, Endeavor's like, yes, this is what I wanted, a dialogue. Let all your hate out. You hate us, talk about it. Thus the episode ends. And then we get this great moment here at the end of the ending credits that was actually pretty cool that they did this. Right now, everything about Dabi is pretty much resolved at this case. Like, finally, you know, before we're like, oh, he's arrested, everything's cool. No, this time, I'm pretty sure the nail in the coffin of the whole Dabi arc is done with. And another thing that I believe is overlooked in this anime, how smart is All Might? I believe that All Might is probably one of the most intellectual people in this show. He is not just all brawn. In the past, of course, whenever All Might, you know, he buffs up and he's like, oh, I am here. And then he beats down everything and is able to take on so many enemies and just overwhelms them. There's more to All Might than just his brawn. Now, I dare say that he actually had intelligence way back when he had his powers and was able to not just be his skinny form. Now, of course, he has to rely more on it now that he is in his skinny form. But All Might has always been someone that has been really smart. This arc has really shown the fact of that, like this plan that he's come up with in order to take on all of the villains, on top of what he did in this episode alone. He knew the only ones that would be able to get there in time and stop Dabi was Lida and Shoto. Their powers combined, which was graphically amazing, as they were just sped away to go and save the day, if you will. But All Might himself is sitting there like, okay, all right, I'm leaving it in the hands of those kids. Now, he's sitting there and realizes that he's in the path of All for One. There's no one else that's gonna stop All for One from being able to get close enough to where he can get to Shigaraki. The only one that's there is All Might. And he knew that All for One is not gonna stick to his plan, which we all know how calculating All for One has been, especially in the battles that he just won. So all Might did was like, I'm just gonna be right here in his path. He's definitely going to stop for me. And then look at this face after it was so good. All for One was like, huh, who's that down there? And then you see the realization of All for One is like, All Might. So yes, he's not gonna stick to his plan like he should. and go to Shigaraki, which honestly he would be, no one can stop him. But nope, All Might knew, is like, nah, they have been fighting for the longest. All Might, when he's buffed and everything, has been fighting All for One like crazy. And yet and still, here they are meeting at this chance. All for One, in order to power up, has used Erie's quirk to make him younger. And then here it is, All Might about to do something himself, which looks like he's putting on some armor or something. Like it just teased us what he was doing, and then that was it. And I was like, excuse me, I want to know what you're doing, All Might. Which I wish this episode was all about their fight, because, you know, I'm a huge All Might fan, and I love to see All Might just go in and absolutely do his thing. But it's fine that it was about Dabi. I'm not hating on that, but I would have loved more of this, because All Might was sitting there like, yeah, okay, I got you. I got your number. So here it is. All Might is buffing up through some means, and then All for One is buffing up previously. So they reunite, and I assume are going to have the battle of the century, whatever that is. You know, here we are on episode 19. Who knows when this will come back and show up? Maybe it will show up more next week. Who knows? So like I said, this part right here, between the powers of Lida and Shoto, able to pretty much be a jet engine. I mean, they had a nice takeoff and then fly. Here he is making ice, like the ice is breaking apart, but he's constantly using his powers in order to make the ice keep its form as this jet plane look-alike, and then using fire powers to make air and make less resistance. So they're just flying through frictionless air, because for those that don't know the science of things, air, whenever you hit a jet engine or a plane, causes friction and actually slows it down. So of course the engine must be more powerful, so then that way it can go faster and fly through the air itself. It's almost like air is like a sheet that tries to slow the object down. So here it is, he's using science, if you will, to make them even faster and crazy distances in short amount of time. But even though how good this was, there was an observer at this whole time. Stain is watching on as they are about to put their self in harm's way to save others. Thus you see here, Stain says, for the sake of others, which all he had to say was this. Stain is saying that he was wrong on his assessment of Lida in the past. Because remember, Stain went after Lida and was saying, oh, you're not a real hero like Deku, like All Might, because their whole point in being a hero is the hero for the sake of it, to save others, not for the glory, the money, and all that. So here it is, he is watching on as Shoto and Lida, who he has met before, are taking off through their hurt, through their pain, to go and save others. So it's really nice moment that even though this is a small frame, that Stain was here to watch on, because I've been wondering where he's at, and I'm hoping that they show more of him in the future. Like maybe Stain is able to help save the day or do something. But it would be so awesome if he came into the fight with All Might against All for One. Oh man, that would be amazing. But all I'm saying is Stain watches on as he really pretty much recounts himself from what he had done in the past to see these guys go on and use their power to get to save the day. So I think this is a really good moment here. Like this episode had a lot of good moments. If you really deep down and look at it, there was a lot more to it than its surface level fights, battles. There was a lot with the Dabi's family, Shoto and Lida, and even Stain, and of course All Might. There was a lot to it. Great episode. I loved it a lot. Tell me what you guys think in the comments down below, because I am very much enjoying these episodes. It keeps getting amazing one after another. And of course, the preview for next week shows that pretty much it's going to be like a backstory, it looks like, on Toga and her feelings and thoughts and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But all I can say is right now, amazing, amazing. But definitely don't be a stranger. Make sure you guys subscribe and press that button for notifications, likes, share it, comment, all of it. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I'd love to grow the channel because I believe we got something going here that I think more people need to hear about. You guys be safe. You take care, and Lord willing, I will see you next time, especially for the next season. Bye-bye for now.
This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.